Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of What's Happening. I'm George Binns. I'm here with my co-host, Elliot Margolis, and we have as our guest this evening, Dr. Richard Wylie, president of Endicott College. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
Now, what's triggered this whole thing off is I was at the holiday party that we run every year, and you started off the show with a introduction of Endicott's impact on Beverly, and I missed most of it. I just caught the tail end, and the thing that really impressed me is Endicott College is #2 in the country in terms of internship programs.
That's right.
And what else did I miss from that?
Well, I think, just picking up on that, the Wall Street Journal identified us as #2 in the country. And then right underneath the documentation was a little note that said, and they even beat out MIT. And we love that, you know?
Yeah.
You know, anytime you can beat MIT. I've been fortunate. I've been in Endicott now 31 years. Mm-hmm. When I came, there were no trespassing signs, and the place was pretty much of a sanctuary. And with a lot of help from the board and staff, we've opened the campus because we want it to be a real asset to the city. And I think when we look at it, we see a variety of things. When I came, there were about 500 students. Now there's 3,000 undergraduates, another 2,200 graduate students. We're an economic engine for the city of Beverly. And I think that's what we want to be. Sometimes we're perceived as a drain on the city. And at times, maybe we are.
Yeah.
And when the fire truck comes at 2 o'clock in the morning and things like that. But we are one of the strongest economic engines, particularly of small colleges in the East.
Well, we've had a discussion over the years of you're a college yet, and you're still offering 1 or 2 doctorate programs.
We offer 4 PhD programs.
Now you're up to 4. Okay, last time we talked it was only 2. When do you decide if you want to be a university or not?
Well, we meet the criteria to be a university.
Yeah.
We've got all the programs and all the stability of a university. But we've chosen to stay a college. A college focuses on teaching and learning, not on graduate students as teaching in the classrooms, not on the research that faculty do and the publications. We want to remain a place where students get the best possible education for the value. So I'm not rushing to be a university. You get measured by the company you keep. You got Amherst, you got Bates, you got Colby, you got Middlebury. We don't need any more.
How much bigger are you going to get? You got 20 acres. How much of that is still buildable?
Well, we have 250 acres. A lot is still buildable, but we are at our maximum size. We're not going to build. Because if I start building new buildings, I'm going to have to build a new library, a new dining hall, a new gymnasium. And it becomes a question of scale. What do you gain by adding 500 more students? We're going to gain a huge construction budget on top of one that we've already got. So we want to stay there. Our graduate school is growing. We have a campus in Spain. We have a center in Bangkok, Thailand, one in Prague. We had one in Bermuda, which we just recently closed. And we had one in Mexico. We loved the one in Mexico, but the Mexican students didn't want to come to sub-zero degree temperature.
Yeah.
All right. You touched on something that I wanted to talk about. Number one, you talked about the value that you bring to the city of Beverly. And I understand that. And first of all, I want to say that you and I had a discussion on a show when I first started cable many moons ago. And I don't remember how many years ago, and it wasn't 30, but it was a long time ago. And I have to say that
something should be forgotten.
Yes, yes. But that being said, the growth of Endicott and everything about Endicott has been so much better under your leadership I need to commend you for the leadership that you've shown.
Well, thank you.
That being said, now,
Brace yourself.
Here it comes.
I want to get
as a
another line
Beverly
of-
resident, I look at the Endicott College campus, beautiful campus, one of the nicest campuses anywhere around. The value of your property is incredible. And of course, it's non-taxable for the most part.
Right.
And so I went down to City Hall and I said, okay, what is the value of the property at Endicott? And they said, well, we don't have the entire value, but it's at least $152 million,
That's right.
okay? And I calculated how much that would be if you were taxed. And it was well over $2 million in taxes. So my question to you is, what do you do for Beverly in terms of a pilot program? Because I know you don't have to pay the taxes. That's a given. I don't. But what do you do to help the community? And I know you do a lot of things for us. But what do you think the value is?
I can put dollar values to everything. We have what is called an economic impact study. So we know what the value of everything we give. Give you a couple examples. Our payroll is about $42 million a year. The students and their parents who visit Endicott spend about $13 million a year. We have a number of programs that invest in the city. We just replaced 2 of the pumping stations on Hale Street to the tune of about $800,000. That was our contribution. We also give the city cash, several $100,000 in cash. We support the summer kindergarten program with paying for the salaries of teachers. And probably the least known benefit that we have is our students get a Gull card. And we put money on the Gull card. And they can go downtown to certain restaurants, no bars, and they can buy, and we pay for it. That is in excess of $450,000 that our students are using our money to go downtown to the restaurants and things like this.
It's part of their meal plan?
It's part of the meal plan.
Yeah.
But we pay for it. They don't pay for that. That's deducted from their meal plan. So I think for us, we calculate we're somewhere in that $2 million range. For example, I made a pledge to the city, which we have honored, on some of the older estates that we purchased. We would pay the equivalence of taxes. So what is now Mistlewood and what is now some of the other buildings that we own, we give that to the city as cash. We won't sign, or at least we haven't signed, a pilot. You got to be careful with pilots because pilots become the political target of, well, give more, give more, give more. Mm-hmm. So what we try to do is spread it out to benefit everybody. We've put radio towers on our buildings for the police and the fire. We provide a lot of free space and service to the city of Beverly. Those are the kind of combinations between cash and real and maybe supportive kinds of things that we should do. According to all the studies that are done of colleges in Massachusetts, we give more than anyone else.
It
Not
sounds like it.
Harvard.
I mean, you're, to me, from what you've described, you're one heck of a good neighbor.
I think we are, and I think it's important. When we tried to put the hockey rink in, I did not want to build a hockey rink. I wanted the city to build it, and I would help support it, but we couldn't get it. So we decided we put the hockey rink in, reduce the cost to Beverly High School, reduce the cost to youth hockey and things like this, so that the students don't have to drive to Pingree or to Middleton and other places, that right in their hometown, there's a resource. Those are the things I'm most proud of. we'd put in about 23,000 hours of community service, valued at around $600,000. You know, on 9/11, our people are out on the streets. They're standing on the bridge, handing hot cups of coffee out there to the fire department. 65% of our students volunteer in a community service. That is twice the national average.
Is that part of your internship program?
No, it's a separate
Separate thing?
office that pushes for students to respect the community. So I'm very proud of all of those combinations. I'd love to give more. I know it's everybody, like you said, you drive by, you see that, you see the new construction. We have an academic building that is now almost 70 years old. It's decaying badly. I have to replace it. So that's costing a lot of money for me to do it. But if I don't do it, I won't have an academic program. So it's a balancing act, and it really is hard.
Oh, I'm sure it's very difficult. But that, like I say, I mean, you're contributing a lot more than some of the other neighbors in the city of Beverly, I'm sure.
We are.
And that's nice to hear because, like I say, it's probably one of the most beautiful campuses there is around.
It is. It's labeled that in the top 10 in the country.
Yeah.
In fact, we beat out Malibu, and the president up there called me and said, "How did you beat Malibu?" And one of our students went online and tweeted and said, "We should have been #1 in the country for 6 weeks. After that, you freeze to death."
Yeah, but that's all part of the charm of New England.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful place. We represent 34, 35 states and about 20 countries.
Well, what percent of your students are from Beverly?
About 45%. And we give a lot, 35%. And we provide a lot of financial aid to the city of Beverly.
Now, do they live on campus or are they commuters?
Most of them are living on campus. It's always interesting because I'll talk to a young man or woman from Beverly, and I'll say, they'll interview to come to us, and they say, "I can't come here because it's too close to home." So they go someplace. The average student won't go more than 100 miles from the campus. And when they graduate, it's about 50% of them have returned. And I often would say to the kids, look, and the mothers, I said, look, you're not going to bump into your family. You're not going to shop at Henry's. And your mother's not going to go to the Pickled Onion. And I think the kids don't bump into their families, and they see that now. We're a self-contained campus.
Well, that's when my kids were going to school, they always insisted they wanted to be far enough away so that we wouldn't go visit them all the time.
No surprises.
And you know, the thing is, both my wife and I went to school. We know not to visit your kids unless it's Parents' Day or something like that. But it's an education process in and of itself, teaching them that, yeah, your parents are going to leave you alone. College education and the college life is yours.
Well, I think when you look to it at our internship program, where we started the discussion tonight, every student does 2 internships, one at a freshman, one at a sophomore, about a month. Senior year, they do a full semester. That puts 700 interns into the region. Then they come back and they
What
write
kind of
it.
things do they do on these internship programs? Because I got into that discussion with the high school today because they're going to go out on an internship program, and they're struggling, the kids, the seniors, on how do I do this? How do I get into this thing? Where can I get something useful? How does it work at your level?
That's a big challenge. But every one of the schools that we have supervisors that work with the kids from the day they come to campus, so that we work with them. And if somebody says, and this is a bad example, my dean of hospitality gets upset with me, but that's all right. I sat with a young woman who was a freshman, and she said, Doc, I'm going to be doing an internship at this hotel doing event planning. I am so excited. She came back after her short internship, and she said, get me out of it. I don't want it. I said, why? And she said, you work Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. How many of us have no kids that went 4 years to college and then said, it's not what I want? So this reinforces a lot of that. But because we have such a network of both supervisors and internship sites, our kids are in hospitals, they're in biotech labs. We just will accept our first students for an engineering degree in September. Many of them will get paid, many will not. Teachers will never get paid doing an internship.
Yeah.
But these are the things that I think add to their quality of education. We just don't, a lot of colleges, and I don't want to knock colleges, but a lot of colleges just say, go do an internship. They have no idea where to go, how to do it, or if they run into trouble, what happens. These kids have a supervisor for 4 years. So if you run into trouble, you can call somebody and they'll come out to your site. You can go see them. We'll work with them. We supervise on sites. It's spectacular. Nobody does it. And that's why we were number 2.
Yeah.
Always be
Excellent.
number 2.
Excellent. Okay, now another thing that we touched upon was, say, the value of education. And you hear in Congress now, everybody's saying it costs too much money to go to college. And maybe the dollar value is not there. Kids get out of college, they can get a job for $20,000, but it costs them $200,000 to be into college. So I guess my question is, why is it so expensive to go to college nowadays?
That's a good question, because I have grandkids in college that I'm trying to put through, and I keep saying, is it worth it? Excuse me. The obvious answer is it is worth it, because if you graduate from college, you're going to make over $1 million more than somebody who doesn't graduate. The problem we're having is we're forcing or encouraging too many kids that aren't college material to go to college. They should be in the vocational, the career, the plumbing, the electrician, and all of these kinds of things. They need to get, that's where they're going to be happiest. And I think what we try to do is we're all trying to reach our numbers. So we sit with somebody and say, this is a great deal for you. And it may not be. Why is ours expensive? I think there's 3 things. One is the support for the internship program is extremely expensive. It's really one-on-one, and that's an important piece of it. I think the second piece is that I'm a firm believer that you get measured by the company you keep. And you want to attract the right kind of kids so that your son or daughter will mix with those kids. That's highly competitive. There are a lot of kids that are in college that shouldn't be there from an attitude or institutional issue. So that's the second. I think the third one really centers down healthcare, retirements, all of these things that are hitting every industry and business are hitting us. Now, we're $48,000 a year for room, board, and tuition. Our competitors are over 55, 58, even 60,000. I would question the value of some of that.
Well, that's an issue that keeps coming up, is what is the value of a college education? I'm an engineer by trade, so I went to what I consider trade school, and I got a trade school degree. I got a couple more after that. But I learned to do something that was immediately something that would get me a decent salary immediately, and didn't have the loan problem that the kids have now. But the kids that are coming out of school with loans of half of what they paid, like you say, it's a $2 million exercise to go 4 years, and next thing you know, they got $1 million worth of loans, and you can't go bankrupt, declare bankruptcy to get out of it. So how do you caution the kids that you really have to get some sort of background that is going to get you into a decent job with a decent salary so you can pay your loans off?
Right. It's a good question. We do not have many students with $1 million or less than $1 million. Now, our average loan debt is around $50,000. That seems like a lot.
Yeah,
But
especially if you're trying to buy a house or get a family started.
That's right. And you marry, and then and I used to say to the students, I read a book, Black Beauty, and to tell the quality of the horse, you looked at the teeth. Now look at your prospective spouse and see what the debt limit is.
Yeah.
But I think part of it gets down is if 53% of my kids are getting jobs out of internships, they're on the right track.
Yeah.
Our default rate on government loans, Pell Grants, is less than 3%. The national average is closer to 14. That tells you that our kids are able to get jobs. They're responsible enough to pay it back.
Well, now you get into an interesting issue. I had one son that went through Northeastern, the co-op program. You're making this internship sound more like a co-op program than just go out and explore a few things.
It is. This is really trying to help people find their career niche, at least a career niche that will last them 4, 5, or 6 years until they decide what else they want to do. I have so many of my friends whose kids are driving taxis and things like this. They had no idea what they wanted to do. Our students know what they want to do. They may change their mind, and that's ideal. But I think it's a lot of media. There's a magazine that just came out showing all these empty seats. Well, higher education is a big business. It's $1 billion plus business. If higher education crumbles, big business is going to crumble because it was just not going to be the ability for people to pay things back. So we have got to work hard on helping them get jobs and keep jobs. That's one of our goals, and that's where I have to say we're extremely successful. Kids will come in to me and say, Doc, I don't know what to do. And we'll pick up the phone and we'll call some people, and they'll go out and see them. A lot of schools, kids can't reach the level of the president or the vice president or the staff to get that kind of guidance and help.
Isn't part of that, though, that you're a relatively small school and you're more accessible because of that? And that's a good thing, by the way.
Well, maybe to some it is, and to my staff, I'm too accessible. Yeah, I think it is, and that's what in part you're paying for in a smaller college.
Right.
I started teaching at UConn, and before it became the great university. Then I wasn't happy there. I went down to Temple, and my classes ran 400 to 600. And I didn't know whether I was teaching or what I was doing. Then I had the privilege of getting a grant from World Bank, and I went to Ethiopia and worked for the Emperor Haile Selassie. And I learned what it was all about motivation and about giving people opportunities. I came back and went to the University of Colorado, loved it, but I fired my best teacher because he didn't publish. Publish or perish.
Yeah.
That night I sat with 500 kids to explain why I fired Jim, my best friend. I left that kind of institution, and that kind of goes back a little to about being university status. What's important? It's the kids.
Yeah, in a university, it's all about research.
That's right. And government grants.
Yeah.
When I was at the University of Colorado, we got one of the William Proxmire's Golden Fleece Awards because we got $3 million to find out why little children fell off tricycles. And guess what we found? They hit a curb, they weren't paying attention, or it was broken. And the president said, what what are we doing? And I said, well, you get 75% of this for your budget. He said, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the reality of the, like you say, it's a big business. And once you've got all the students in the door, you got to provide them with something. And
right.
it takes a staff and a lot of facilities to cover it. And I guess the question is, with a lot of this electronic media, how is that going to impact an institution like yours, where you're talking about a lot of personal, hands-on experience?
We had a meeting yesterday of all my staff, about 400, and we talked about what are we going to do for the year 2030. And I'm convinced that quality programs, quality faculty, but on top of that, it's the value of the people that you graduate and work with. Do they understand they've got civic responsibilities? Do they understand that there's much more to business than a spreadsheet? And it's how you help and elevate others. And I think those are the schools that are going to do extremely well. Mm-hmm. Those that just farm them out, it's going to be hard.
You brought up a number of interesting points, one of which we've talked about on shows before. Not everybody is for college.
That's right.
Yeah. And we need more vocational schools, and we need more plumbers, we need more electricians, and they make a good living.
Absolutely.
So I think, I'm glad you brought that up. I thought that was real interesting. I think it's also fascinating to see what you do for the students. Big schools don't do that. I'm a product of a big school. I sort of knew what I wanted to do, and I had no problems there. But one of the things with big schools versus, I would assume, a small school, and we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, but is there a lot of drinking that goes on campus?
Yes. I would love to say it's not there.
Yeah.
It is a social problem.
Yeah.
The president of Middlebury wanted to start an initiative called the Amethyst Initiative. He wanted to get all the college presidents to sign on to a national study on policies and procedures on alcohol. Out of the 3,000 college presidents, 100 signed it. I did. Mm-hmm. I was boycotted. All these people were saying, all you want to do is allow people to drink. We have to find a solution. And the solution is don't drink. That does not work.
Yeah.
So we've got some challenges ahead of us.
Not even the
That
drinking,
we
it's
have
the
to
alcohol.
leave it at that, unfortunately. Believe it or not, time flies.
That's right.
And
I'm glad we're leaving that topic, too.
Yeah, that's
that's why I saved it for last.
Thank you.
Okay. But thank you for watching. I hope that you learned something from this, and that Endicott is, in fact, one great neighbor for the city of Beverly. Thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.